The world just moved one step closer to an all-out war between NATO and Russia, and it's all because of another daring and provocative move on the part of Russia. In Kaliningrad, the Kremlin has aimed its Iskander ballistic missiles at Poland. In response, NATO troops are rolling out. Tensions are rising, and the world waits with bated breath to see what will happen next. This dramatic new turn of events began on September 10, when Russia launched a barrage of drones and missiles into Ukraine. On the face of it, there's nothing unusual about that, since Russia regularly bombards Ukraine with its Shahed drones and missile strikes. But this attack was different, because some of those drones, anywhere from 19 to 23 of them, according to official sources, didn't stop in Ukraine. They carried on westwards, travelling over another international border and into Poland. It was an unprecedented incident. While occasional Russian drones have crossed beyond Ukraine in the past, an entire swarm of them entering another country's airspace has not been seen until now. Thankfully, Poland reacted fast. Its armed forces had been anticipating an event of this nature for quite some time, strengthening their border defences and scrambling jets on a nightly basis just in case a Russian drone or missile entered their territory. They were ready, and they didn't hesitate. Together with the support from the Dutch Air Force and other NATO nations, they shot down several of Russia's drones and no casualties were reported, though one drone did strike a residential property in a small village not far from the border, badly damaging the house and a parked car outside. It was the first time that Poland, or indeed any NATO nation, had been forced to actively engage and take action against Russian assets in its own airspace since the war with Ukraine began. And the fallout has been enormous. While Russia has denied any wrongdoing and claimed it had no plans to target facilities on the territory of Poland, multiple world leaders, particularly across Europe and the West, have condemned the Kremlin's actions. Many have even suggested that the entire incident was part of a Russian plan to provoke NATO and test the alliance response, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky issuing a warning cry to the wider world. Moscow always pushes the boundaries of what's possible, and if it does not encounter a strong reaction, it remains at the new level of escalation. Today, there was another step of escalation. Russian-Iranian Shaheds operated in the airspace of Poland in NATO airspace. It was not just one Shahed that could be called an accident, but at least 8 strike drones aimed toward Poland. An extremely dangerous precedent for Europe. Whether there'll be further steps depends entirely on the coordination and the strength of the response. The Russians must feel the consequences. Russia must feel that the war cannot be expanded and will have to be ended. The situation has only grown more intense from there, as Poland made the significant decision to invoke Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty, as confirmed by the country's Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, who said, "The shooting down of drones that threatened our security is a success for Polish armed forces and NATO, which simultaneously changes the political situation. In this regard, Allied consultations have taken the form of a formal request to activate Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty." Article 4 allows any member nation to submit an issue of concern, particularly regarding the security of one or more members, for discussion within the North Atlantic Council. This is only the 8th time that the Article 4 has been invoked since the North Atlantic Treaty was signed back in 1949, which demonstrates how serious this situation is. But that seemingly hasn't been enough to deter Russia from further action. On Saturday, September 13, the Kremlin took 2 more large steps towards a conflict with NATO. The first, and perhaps most worrying, was the movement of at least 2 Iskander-M missile systems in Kaliningrad to a new location, not far from the Polish border. 9K720 Iskander missiles are short-range ballistic missiles that can strike targets up to 500 kilometers or around 310 miles away. They can be equipped with a range of warheads, including cluster munitions, earth penetrators for striking reinforced targets, electromagnetic pulses for anti-radar missions, high-explosive fragmentation warheads, and fuel-air explosive enhanced blast warheads too. They're even capable of carrying nuclear warheads, making them one of the most versatile and potentially deadly arms in the Russian arsenal. And they come in 3 distinct variants: Iskander-M, Iskander-K, and Iskander-E. The Iskander-M is the most common, capable of reaching speeds of up to Mach 7, which is well over 5,000 miles per hour. It's also highly agile, able to carry out mid-air maneuvers to evade anti-ballistic interceptor missiles on its way to the target. The Iskander-K, meanwhile, is a winged variant capable of carrying various kinds of cruise missiles, while the Iskander-E is an export model. Iskander-M missiles have been used extensively throughout the war in Ukraine so far, dating right back to the early days of the invasion, and Ukraine especially struggled to deal with them early on. Kyiv has since found ways to counter and intercept Iskanders. It famously managed to down 11 of them over the course of a single day back in 2023. However, even with advanced aerial defences, Ukraine cannot stop them all, and Iskander missiles have dealt a large amount of damage to targets across Ukraine. They destroyed a HIMARS rocket launcher provided by the US back in March 2024, for example, as well as a couple of German M901 missile launchers near the city of Pokrovsk in Donetsk not long after that. Iskander missiles have also blown up Ukrainian helicopters as well as fighter jets, and in February of this year, the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed it had used Iskanders to take out no less than 1,400 high-value targets across Ukraine. Of course, official Russian sources often exaggerate or even make up claims entirely to suit their own agenda, so this figure can't be taken at face value. But there have been numerous reports of Iskanders successfully striking structures and assets across Ukraine. In other words, there's no doubt that these are some of the best missiles Russia has at its disposal, and it's producing them in increasingly large quantities. Indeed, reports show that the Kremlin has upped production by around 66% over the last year, and can now make up to 60 to 70 Iskander-M ballistic missiles per month, as well as 10 to 15 of its hypersonic Kinzhal missiles too. The presence of these missiles so close to Poland is a major worry, and there are open source intelligence analysts to thank for figuring out exactly where the missile launchers have been placed. To be more precise, it was the Cyberboroshno analyst group, which has also made numerous other important discoveries and reports over the course of the war so far, that localized the Iskander launchers in Russia's Kaliningrad region, which sits in a strategic spot for the Kremlin between Poland and Lithuania, with a long coastline looking out across the Baltic Sea. The analyst group made a post on Telegram to share their findings, writing, "Russians filming the Iskander missile system on the E28 highway connecting Berlin to Minsk, north of the village of Kudryatsevo, Kaliningrad region." The group even shared the exact coordinates where the launchers were located: 54.6451214, 21.3785666. However, the most worrying part of their post explained just how many surrounding European and NATO nations were now within range of those very systems. 6 NATO countries fall within their radius of action: Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Sweden and Germany. More specifically, a map of the region revealing the estimated range of the Iskander missiles shows that they could effectively be used to strike anywhere in Lithuania, including the capital city of Vilnius, as well as anywhere in Latvia, including the capital Riga. A large part of Estonia, around 1/3 of the country's total area, also falls within range, as does the majority of Poland, including Warsaw. Only small parts of Sweden and Germany are within the Iskander's estimated radius, but their capital cities, Stockholm and Berlin, are less than 62 miles from being targeted. What makes this even more concerning is that the Iskander's exact range cannot be 100% confirmed, and it could be far greater than expected. Rumours have been going around about a new and improved version of the Iskander, fitted with a solid fuel engine that would allow it to travel even greater distances, potentially up to 620 miles. Very little is known about this, and there hasn't been any official confirmation one way or another from Russia about whether or not it's working on such a missile or has perhaps already produced and tested it. If it did have such a missile and was able to fire it from somewhere in Kaliningrad, countless new NATO targets would be within its range. It could, for example, strike places across Germany, Austria, Czechia, Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, and the Netherlands, among other nations. The missiles spotted in Kaliningrad at the moment, however, appear to be the standard Iskander-Ms, and an open source video circulating online revealed the location. The reason the Kremlin is being so bold about this because it's currently conducting its Zapad 2025 military exercises in conjunction with one of its closest allies, Belarus. The exercises, which also involves representatives from various other nations, are mostly scheduled to take place in bases around Belarus, but activities have also been announced in Kaliningrad. EU and NATO officials have long harbored concerns that Zapad 2025 could be more than just a military training exercise, and that Russia could take advantage of this opportunity to put pressure on the eastern flank or even attempt some sort of escalation of the conflict. Poland has closed its borders with Belarus for the duration of the event. Lithuania has closed off its airspace near Belarus, and Latvia has done the same. But with some major Russian missile systems only 21 miles from the Polish border, Europe remains in a state of caution and alert, and Russia is not doing anything to assuage the continent's fears. In fact, a second incident occurred on September 13 that once more sent ripples of panic across the region when yet another Russian drone entered the airspace of a NATO nation. This time, it was Romania that saw a Russian drone cross its borders and was forced to take defensive actions. A statement from the country's Ministry of Defense explained that a Russian Geran model drone entered its airspace and remained there for around 50 minutes, passing by several towns before returning over the border and into Ukraine. Romania scrambled a pair of F-16 fighter jets in response, which tracked the drone until it left their radar screens. Germany also assisted in this mission, providing a pair of Eurofighter Typhoons to the cause. While the drone didn't appear to pose any threat to the people of Romania and left without dealing any damage, its presence is a cause for concern, especially so soon after the drone incursion into Poland. It feels once more as though the Kremlin is pushing NATO's buttons, testing, poking, and prodding to see what kind of reaction it gets to test the alliance's strength and response times. In its statement, the Defense Ministry adds that it strongly condemns the irresponsible actions of the Russian Federation and emphasizes that they represent a new challenge to regional security and stability in the Black Sea area, adding, "Such incidents demonstrate the Russian Federation's lack of respect for international law." The country's foreign minister, Oana Toiu, took to X to share her own statement, pledging to raise Russia's actions at the UN General Assembly, urging a strict international adherence to sanctions. Kaja Kallas, Vice President of the European Commission and EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, also posted on X, condemning Russia's actions yet again. The violation of Romanian airspace by Russian drones is yet another unacceptable breach of an EU member state sovereignty. This continued reckless escalation threatens regional security. We stand in solidarity with Romania. I'm also in close contact with the Romanian government. In the last week alone, multiple NATO nations have seen Russian drones cross their borders, and Russia has shown off strategically positioned missile systems that could strike several European capitals and major cities at any time. Thankfully, NATO is not simply sitting idly by and watching the situation unravel around it. It's taking action as a direct consequence of Poland's invocation of Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty, announcing the launch of Operation Eastern Sentry on September 12. This operation is set to involve military forces from numerous NATO nations, including Denmark, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, and is a direct response to Russia's reckless and aggressive actions. This was confirmed by NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte, who stated,
"Whilst this was the largest concentration of violations of NATO airspace that we have seen, what happened on Wednesday was not an isolated incident. Russia's recklessness in the air along our eastern flank is increasing in frequency. We have seen drones violate our airspace in Romania, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Whether intentional or not, it is dangerous and unacceptable. Allies expressed full solidarity with Poland and denounced Russia's reckless behavior. To ensure that we are prepared and ready to defend every inch of Allied territory, we stood up Baltic Sentry at the beginning of this year to help safeguard critical infrastructure from reckless behavior in the Baltic Sea. And today, General Kinkowicz and I are here to announce that NATO is launching Eastern Sentry to bolster our posture even further along our eastern flank. This is why we have forward land forces deployed in 8 countries, with contributions from every ally supporting these contingents, and plans in place to scale up our presence if and when required.
The operation has already begun, with various allied nations announcing their own contributions. Denmark will provide a pair of F-16 fighter jets, for example, along with an anti-air warfare frigate, while France is sending 3 Rafale jets to the area, and Germany is contributing 4 Eurofighters. A NATO statement detailing the plan also stated that new technologies will be rapidly experimented and deployed, focusing specifically on anti-drone warfare, including counter-drone sensors and weapons to detect, track, and take out drones as soon as they enter range. The Netherlands and Czechia have both also pledged to send defences to Poland, and Lithuania is also receiving support from Germany to help preempt and respond to any future Russian attacks or incursions into its airspace. The United Kingdom also says it's fully committed to the cause, though has yet not announced any details of what exact support it will provide. And the US ambassador to the UN, Dorothy Shea, expressed America's commitment too, stating, "The United States stands by our NATO allies in the face of these alarming airspace violations, and rest assured we will defend every inch of NATO territory." But that's not all. NATO is set to put boots on the ground in Poland itself, in a move that's been approved by the President of Poland, Karl Nawrocki. On Sunday, September 14, Poland's National Security Bureau, BBN, posted a tweet to confirm this news. The President of the Republic of Poland, Karl Nawrocki, signed a resolution expressing consent to the stay on the territory of the Republic of Poland of a component of foreign troops of the states parties to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization as reinforcement of the Republic of Poland as part of Operation Eastern Sentry. The statement revealed no further details, so it's not yet clear how many troops might be deployed or which allies they might come from. But one thing is certain, NATO is not messing around with Operation Eastern Sentry. As Poland's defense minister, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz puts it, this is a tough, clear response from NATO to Russia's aggressive actions. The minister also stated that Eastern Sentry is set to be a very serious operation, probably one of the largest in NATO's history. So, while Russia is flaunting its missile systems and testing the boundaries of NATO's resilience and responsiveness, the alliance is responding with a serious show of strength. With jets, soldiers and new anti-drone systems guarding the borders of Poland and other nations that are close to Russia, the Kremlin may have to rethink its strategy moving forward. It's pushed and prodded one time too many and is close to incurring the full wrath of the NATO alliance. If any more Russian drones go beyond Ukraine, they're likely to be shot down instantly. And if the Kremlin continues to act in such a reckless and unruly manner, the situation could escalate much further. And while Russia's President Vladimir Putin may like to brag and boast about his country's military strength and make threats and proclamations about what he could do if NATO forces took action against him, the fact of the matter is that the combined might of NATO allies is far greater than Russia's. After all, the Kremlin is still struggling to gain ground in Ukraine, so would have very little hope of prevailing in a full-scale conflict with the Western world. Now, learn more about how European nations close to Russia are strengthening their defences in anticipation of a possible conflict in our recent video, focusing on Lithuania's ambitious and extraordinary new border fortifications. Or, to understand just how badly this war is starting to go for Russia, check out our video about how Russian soldiers are literally shooting themselves in the foot to bail out of the battlefield and receive big cash payouts from the government. And finally, make sure you subscribe to our channel too, so you can stay informed and up to date on everything that's happening across Europe and elsewhere.